Having worked in government as long as I have as a contractor, civilian technical expert, I've met a lot of people from a lot of different countries around the world. And it's fascinating because I talk to a lot of people from China, talk to a lot of Chinese citizens, Korean citizens, Japanese citizens, Indonesian citizens, and I mean that specifically. I talk to a lot of folks from those countries specifically just because, well, I meet those folks quite a bit. I just got to check on this guy, man. He's in this car, and I want to make sure that he's okay. His car's pulled over, and I'm just double-checking to make sure that this dude is okay. Hold up, man. I got to see, man. This dude's okay. Yo! You okay, bro? Just double-checking, man. I saw you pulled over. I just want to make sure you aight. Oh, okay. I saw your head down, and I. Yeah. All right, man. Yep, no problem. You know, just trying to do my good deed, man. In society here, for the day. So, I mean, because technically, man, I mean, dude is kind of like stopping traffic, but, you know, I'm not the police. So I'm not gonna, you know, give this guy a citation or anything. But, yeah, I mean, I was genuinely concerned. I mean, he looked like he was like, I don't know, man, maybe having some type of like medical issue or something. Because he was hunched over and he seemed kind of motionless. But anyway, back to what I was saying, just policing my community, you know, just doing my citizen, vigilance and whatnot. And, don't want to have to place anyone under citizen's arrest. You know what I mean? So, and I'm being very serious. So, I meet a lot of international persons. Study Korean as a second language, study Chinese, study Japanese, and dabble in some other languages here and there. Because I grew up in the Pacific Rim. I grew up north of Seattle, very close to Japan. And when I was in college, my roommates were from Japan. My roommates of 4 years, 4 years, were from Japan. I lived in the student dorms, and then I lived off campus, and 2 different apartments, and my roommates were from Japan. I was the only domestic student, and they were all the others, the rest of them, my roommates, they were all from Japan. And then later in college, on the East Coast, I studied Korean as a second language. So I've always had a fondness for Asia. I grew up playing video games, Nintendo, Atari, watching Gundam, Mobile Suit, the original cartoon, reading manga, however you pronounce it, watching anime, and playing with Japanese, manufactured, created action figures. And so I've always had a fondness for Asia. People ask me all the time. Well, they used to, not so much anymore. Now that the, borders have shrunk and have shrunken, and borders are increasingly shrinking, and it's more and more of a global community. But people used to ask me, why do you like Asia? Genuinely asking me, why do you like Asia? And sometimes I would flip it around on them. I would be like, why do you like the United States? You know what I'm saying? Why did you come to the United States from Asia? You like America, and Americans in the United States and the West, same difference, and they'd be like, oh, I see. I never really thought why, or that someone might like where we come from. And I'm like, yeah, the same way that you like America, I like Asia. What I like about Asia is depending on where one is in Asia, whether it be Singapore, China, Japan, Korea, wherever, Taiwan, wherever. And I did not say that to politicize anything. In my mind, Taiwan is still Taiwan, and it is its own thing. So I'm just saying, in my view, I was always taught that it was a sovereign territory. Now, I know some Chinese citizens, it's a sensitive subject issue, and they think differently. My Chinese American professor of geography had worked at CIA, which at the time was the National Reconnaissance Organization under CIA, and I learned a lot of things about Asia from him. And what he said was that despite everything that people can see with their naked eyes out west, Nintendo, Boeing, Microsoft, which I talk about in the November 12 project when I rap, the Washington State, the track where I talk about the Puget Sound, and I talk about all of its, at that time, magnificence before you had documentaries such as Seattle is Dying. Back in the golden age of Seattle, in the 1970s forward into the early 1990s, before gangs, drugs, crime had become as rampant as they became in the mid to late 1990s and beyond. Seattle area, the Puget Sound, Seattle, Everett, Tacoma, beautiful, magnificent, glorious, remarkable, splendid, terrific place to be. And so I spoke very highly of the Puget Sound and the Pacific Rim. And sometimes I reminisce about the glory days, the old school days, the golden era, the golden age. You know, those days are gone, man. It's a different universe, different world now, different riverside neighborhood than the one that I'm from. Different Seattle, different Everett, different Tacoma. So point being is that I studied Japanese in high school. I studied Japanese in college. I studied Korean in college. I studied Chinese in college. Some German, some Russian, some Arabic, and some other languages. And I made it abundantly clear to folks that when I have studied Asia in terms of its history, the different countries of Asia, and their respective cultures and histories and traditions and so on and so forth, etc., etc. My Chinese American professor of geography who had been at CIA and NRO, he shared with us that despite the Pacific Northwest, Puget Sound, the West Coast high technology corridor with all its military bases and fortresses, installations, facilities, complexes of all these technological wonders, he said that the West Coast back in the 1990s was, by all U.S. intelligence community, that's U.S. military and civilian intelligence, defense science criteria, that by the very definition, categorization, classification, by all U.S. military industrial complex, that is defense, U.S. defense establishment, by all observation, that and by all definition, that the U.S. West Coast is actually no less than 400 years behind the East Coast of the United States. And no less than 2,000 years behind Japan and Korea and China. Yeah, 2,000 years. Do you know how long China has existed before it was even called China in the West? Do you know? Do you know when humans were on the soil of what comprised China prior to it being referred to as China by the West. China was previously referred to as Cathay. 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 And I have seen evidence of humans on that soil thousands of years ago. 100,000 years ago. Millions of years ago. Absolutely. I'm not making this up. I've seen the data. So, Japan, even back in the 1970s, in the United States, was more than 1,000 years beyond what it is that is in the West, was in the West. And now, South Korea is considered the world's most technologically advanced nation. That is the most technologically advanced country on planet Earth. No less than 2,000 years more advanced than anything in mainstream society in the West. I'm not talking about government classified systems. We work with South Korea very closely and Japan very closely. And we share technology at the military defense, civilian intelligence, defense science classified levels. We share advanced classified technologies with those countries. I'm talking about in mainstream society. When you look around you, it doesn't matter the city that you're in. You can be in the middle of Manhattan. You can be in the middle of downtown LA. You can be in the middle of downtown Chicago. You can be in the middle of the financial whatever district of somewhere in Texas or some other state, New England. Doesn't matter what you see in terms of technological wonder, prowess, stature, however large, macro, size, magnitude, whatever order, scale, that looks impressive, that looks brand new, that looks state-of-the-art, that looks like Microsoft, Redmond campus, which looks like Star Wars. And yes, I know I've actually switched it up in my brain, and when I had meant to refer to Star Wars before, I said Star Trek, and vice versa. I said Star Trek when I meant to say Star Wars, and I said Star Wars when I meant to say Star Trek. When I've been to the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington, back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, it literally looked like something out of Star Wars. Just magnificent, marvelous, absolutely grand scale, like super like amazing, fucking mind-blowing. And it went on as far as the eye could see. And you would drive the entire length perimeter of the campus, and you would come back, and you would think to yourself, how does one man own all this? Microsoft is its own it's its own city. It really is. So you see that and you think, wow, America, man, we're on top of things. World's richest man. Now it's Bezos. And you see all these things, all these military bases and all these financial giants, tech giants, Google, Mountain View, California, all these tech companies, Palo Alto, San Jose, you name it. You see all this stuff. Boeing headquarters, Microsoft, Nintendo, Google, Oracle, whatever, pick one. Well, what I learned from my Chinese American professor of geography is that Japan, Korea, China, they're 2,000 years beyond anything that you see in the West. 2,000, no less than 2,000 years beyond any of what you conceivably conceive you in the West. Now, why would I not have a fondness, especially as a sci-fi buff and science researcher analyst? Why would I not have a fondness for Asia in the context of what I just imparted? The other thing that I share with folks is when one considers the world's most technologically advanced countries and the world's most technologically advanced country, South Korea, you have to have some orderliness in order to achieve that. You have to have a strong social contract theory for folks to participate in that type of society and to agree to certain rules and societal norms. I mean, man, think about how many millennia it would take to orchestrate that. I mean, look at how in American traffic congestion, you just have fucking rude assholes. Not everyone is rude. Not every American is rude. But think of different cities where people honk. They're just so quick on the trigger to honk. Beep, 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 beep. And it's like, hey, lowbrow. Hey, fucking knuckle dragger. Hey, peanut fucking brain. Bing, 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 peanut. Computation, one dot matrix. Yeah, hey, did you ever think maybe there's a senior citizen in a wheelchair or with a cane or a walker in front of my fucking car? You goddamn fucking son of a bitch. Yeah, hey, when your son or daughter are stopped in traffic and I'm behind them, I'm gonna blast my fucking horn at your wife and your son and your fucking daughter. You fucking son of a bitch. Yeah, I stopped for 1 microsecond. Yeah, you couldn't see her, could you? Yeah, because you're not paying attention, you fucking piece of shit, motherfucking son of a bitch. Yeah, they're so quick to honk their horns in America. 1 microsecond, oh, you're impeding their traffic movement forward. Yeah, they don't care that there's human life in front of you that they didn't fucking see. Then people ask me, why do you like Asia? Why do you like the United States?